I'm going to call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Minneapolis City Council to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Here.
Warsami is absent. Goodman.
Present.
Fry is absent. Palmisano.
Present.
Gordon.
Here.
Kano.
Here.
Reich.
Here.
Bender.
Here.
Glidden.
Here.
Yang.
Here.
Johnson is absent. President Johnson.
Here.
There are 10 members present.
We have a quorum present. Next item on our agenda is adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any changes or additions? Seeing none, the agenda's been moved and seconded. All in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 14th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have referral of petitions, communications, and reports to proper committees.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next, we have the reports of the standing committees, and the first is the Committee of the Whole. That committee is chaired by the Council Vice President, Elizabeth Glidden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 3 items on our agenda. The first is approval of the Transgender Equity Council appointments. This is the first time that the council is making appointments to this brand-new council. The second is approval of the American Indian Memorandum of Understanding 2017 refresh. And the third item is moving the city's Medica plan transition in 2018 to self-insurance, which includes authorizing the implementation of a single employer self-insured medical plan effective January 1st, 2018, and authorizing necessary contracts to effectuate the implementation of the self-insured medical plan. And I'll just note on item number 2, that includes approving the work group membership to serve on the American Indian Memorandum of Understanding. I will move approval of all 3 items.
The Council Vice President has moved the Committee of the Whole report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman. Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Community Development Regulatory Services Report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. The Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee is bringing forward 18 items for approval this morning. Items 1 through 7 are land sales. Item 8 is the Downtown East Commons Park allowing for beer and wine during specific events. Item 19 will need to be amended, so I'm going to come back to item 9. 10 are the regular liquor business and gambling licenses. 11 is granting exclusive development rights to United Properties along with First Avenue Productions for development at the Upper Harbor Terminal. Item 12 is a contract amendment going for another option agreement with United Properties on the North Nicollet Hotel block. Item number 13 is TOD grants. Item 14 is accepting a grant from DEED. Item 15 is allocating several $100,000 to our Great Streets Business District Support Grant Program. Item 16 is a rental license reinstatement. Item 17 is postponing the license settlement conference recommendations with Certix for 2 cycles. We rejected the recommendation of staff and we'll take it up in 2 cycles. And item 18 is a ranked list of our Met Council Livable Communities demonstration accounts and transit-oriented development grants. I'll note that we were only able to rank 3 of 6 in each of the 2 categories. With that, I'll move all items except for item 9.
Councilmember Goodman has moved all items on the Community Development Report with the exception of item 9. Anyone want to pull any of those off or discuss any of those items? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll on items 1 through 8 and then 10 through 18 on the Community Development and Regulatory Services Report.
Madam President, before I
I'm sorry.
call the roll, just for clarification, I had an amendment on CDRS number 15. I'm assuming that's included as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. Matt, is that in front of us here?
Yes,
All right,
Okay.
Councilmember,
Mhm.
that
Councilmember,
was just a simple number
Okay,
change.
amendment, okay. The amendment that is in front of you for item 15 is included in Councilmember Goodman's motion.
Councilmember Quincy,
Aye.
Warsami,
Aye.
Goodman,
Aye.
Fry,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Kano,
Aye.
Reich,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Glidden,
Aye.
Yang,
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye,
There are 12 ayes.
that report is adopted. Then on item 9, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. There's an amendment in front of you. This is with regard to Resource Inc. and the bond issuance. This is local host approval that was supposed to, didn't need a public hearing, had a public hearing. There's a little bit of confusion regarding it. This amendment is simply straightening out the legal terminology so we can move forward with the bond issuance that we've already voted on. So I will move the change that is in front of you.
Councilmember Goodman has moved the motion on CDRS number 9 regarding Resource Inc. bond resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy,
Aye.
Warsami,
Aye.
Goodman,
Aye.
Fry,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Kano,
Aye.
Reich,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Glidden,
Aye.
Yang,
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. And next we have the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President. The Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee is bringing forward 5 items for consideration today. The first is passage of an ordinance amending Title 10 related to short-term food permits, public markets, and municipal markets. The second item is authorizing an increase in a contract with the Family Partnership. The third item is authorizing an agreement with Health Partners to provide insurance payments for services billed through our school-based clinics. The fourth item is accepting a grant from the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization to assist with erosion control and enforcement for 2017. And the fifth item is passage of a resolution establishing green zones in the city of Minneapolis. I'm going to move all items, but I want to pull item number 5 off because I know that Councilmember Reich has some amendments.
Okay. Councilmember Gordon has moved items 1 through 4 on the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy,
Aye.
Warsami,
Aye.
Goodman,
Aye.
Fry,
Aye.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Kano,
Aye.
Reich,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Glidden,
Aye.
Yang,
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have item 5. Councilmember Gordon, did you wish to speak to it, or should I just turn it over to Councilmember Wright?
I will yield to Councilmember Reich. He has some amendments. I'm not sure if it's going to be moved as a substitute or not, but they are, I think they're generally helpful, and it's mostly fine-tuning what's considerations for the northern green zone.
Councilmember Wright?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Chair Gordon. Yes, if it's the appropriate format to move as a substitute, that's how I'll proceed. And then by way of brief comment, I'll say the changes, I think, maintain the focus from the Health Department and their intent to have, limited resources and staff time to focus and proceed as they had contemplated in one area, the southern, what's now called the Southern Green Zone, but to leave out the northern side of town, who's already doing a lot of work that could probably be contemplated as a green zone activity, but isn't as such. And so I feel if we can do some preliminary aggregation of these disparate efforts with an initial focus on the river, we can proceed to create a platform for potential later green zone activities. And by that time, we'll have learned a lot from what they do in the southern side with staff's help and that grant that they have. So I think we get the best of both worlds. We focus where we need to focus. We don't leave communities out, and the river is not a divider, it's a uniter for north and northeast. With that, I move the substitution.
So Councilmember Reich has moved the resolution in front of us establishing the green zones in the city of Minneapolis. Any discussion on those items? Councilmember Bender?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention, I think this is a really excellent program, and I'm glad it went forward. I know when we voted to take to put resources to it during the budget conversation that it actually failed. And so I'm glad to see that the support is growing. But I have some concern about the amount of staff time that we have going to it versus the amount of resources that we've put to this. So our staff person, who's now kind of the remaining person in the sustainability office, is spending about 75% of her time on this. So I would encourage us all to just think forward as we move with this about the level of commitment that we're making to this program and just making sure that we're being supportive of our staff and that we actually have the resources for it to be successful. This is a program that we've committed to do a lot of significant community engagement around, which I think is really important, but also time sensitive or time intensive and staff intensive. So I'm supportive, and I hope that we can find, I know there's some grant resources, maybe Councilmember Conlon wants to speak to that, but that we're really, if we're making this a priority, that we actually put the resources to do so.
Councilmember Gordon?
I just wanted to note a little bit the significance of doing this. It's actually been a long time in coming. This is something that we actually painstakingly got incorporated into our climate action plan as an initiative to move forward on. It's also a tool that we can really be using to address some of the historical harm that's been done in certain parts of our city and certain communities within our city. It's innovative. It has been employed and used in other cities, particularly Los Angeles, but other cities that we looked to. And it's been kind of a challenging step each step along the way. And I have to really acknowledge the intensive work of the community group that brought us to this point. Those people who are on the committee saw the presentation, saw all the research that went into it. We got to look at various maps measuring what are the issues involved in terms of environmental harm that's been done to some parts of our community and some residents of our community, also where the overburdened communities are and where they aren't. It was actually, we had set our mind on identifying one green zone, but when we looked at the data and we looked at all the information, it was really clear that there were two particular areas of our city that are enormously stressed by pollution, air quality, soil, water quality, and overburdened by other factors. And so I think we're stretching ourselves to say that we can identify these two areas now, and rather than waiting to begin work on one of them until later, we're going to try to see if we can rally our resources and work on two. I really want to thank the Sustainability Office, and particularly Kelly, for all the work that she put into this, managing a stakeholders work group that the council asked her to put together to handle this. They met repeatedly, and I understand that it was actually some very difficult work that that group did to come to consensus and to pull together as a group. And they did, and they brought us, I think, a great report. So hopefully we can carry this forward and really make a difference in the lives of the residents in the city of Minneapolis.
Councilmember Wright?
Thank you, Madam President. I think Councilor Gordon very well put the intent and the meaning of what we're trying to accomplish and the significance of it, and the staff work, of course. That can't be said enough. In terms of the resource thing, we're very sensitive to that, the issues that Councilmember Bender raised, and that's why we're making sure that the initial impetus from the department with their limited resources is in fact focused initially in one area, and the work that would be done in the northern sector would be more preliminary coordinating work, which probably at this early conversation would be more of an NCR-led thing. So by all means, we do not want to dilute resources. We want to focus them because we want maximum impact. And the knowledge and learning that will come from that will benefit everyone.
Any further discussion on number 5, on the health, community engagement, and environment report? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Yes.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Gooden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have intergovernmental relations. That committee is chaired by the Council Vice President Elizabeth Glidden.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 2 items on the agenda for today. The first is directing staff and approving some additional communication on federal and state legislative funding proposals and their impacts on the city. This includes directing staff to draft a letter to the Minnesota congressional delegation regarding the president's proposed 2018 budget and its impact on the city, directing staff to draft a letter to the chairs of the House and Senate Transportation Committees regarding transit and transportation funding. And that is a letter that is getting signed by all council members. And finally, directing staff to draft a letter to the executive branch, legislative leadership, and appropriate committee chairs relating to funding of the racial equity agenda that was passed into law in 2016. The second item is passage of a resolution supporting continued funding for the National Endowment of the Arts and National Endowment for the Humanities and opposing the defunding of those agencies. And I will move approval of both items.
Councilmember Glidden has moved the intergovernmental relations report. Any discussion on either of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we have 4 items before this council. The first item is a revised comprehensive general emergency management plan, and it's passage of a resolution approving that. Second item is contract agreements with several agencies with regards to joint enforcement team patrols. Third item is a cooperative agreement between the Minneapolis PD and other law enforcement agencies for law enforcement services during the Super Bowl. And the fourth item is a contract with Hennepin County Community Outreach for co-responder pilot program. And I will move all 4 items for approval.
Councilmember Yang has moved the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Report. Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. And next, we have the Transportation and Public Works Report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Reich.
The committee will be forwarding 24 items today for consideration and approval. Item 1 is the Washington Street North project, street resurfacing, approval of assessments. I will be amending that as follows. The assessment term for the property located at 2418 and 2422 Washington Street Northeast will be extended from 5 to 7 years. Item 2 is the North and South Sheridan Area Residential Street Resurfacing Project, project approval and assessment. Item 3 is the Commons Ordinance, and that's passage ordinance, the Minneapolis Code relating to streets and sidewalks in general relating to the rules of the Commons, and we will be approving the quote rules of the Commons that will be the guiding document for that area. Item 4 is the passage of resolution for the alley renovation program, project designation and cost estimates. Item 5 is the 46th Street South reconstruction project designation, cost estimate, easement, and appropriation for that project. Item 6 is the Nicollet Mall reconstruction project, removing special assessments for 300 Washington Avenue. Item 7 is the 2015 water service line repair replacement and removing special assessments for 5153 15th Avenue South. Item 8 is a temporary easement agreement with Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for Nicollet Island Pump Station. Item 9 is the cooperative agreement with Hennepin County for the Westlake Street Lagoon Avenue crosswalks and Marshall Street Bikeway feasibility study. Item 10 is the non-disclosure agreement with the Aclara Technologies Incorporated. Item 11 is the stormwater pump station rehabilitation project phase 2, and that's an amendment of the contract for that work to proceed. Item 12 is the 10th Avenue Storm Tunnel Repairs phase 4 project, and that's a contract amendment for that work to proceed. Item 13 is the PV Plaza gift acceptance from Green Minneapolis, and that's in the amount of $2 million. Item 14 is the intern project agreement with the Minnesota Technical Assistance Program. Item 15 is the settlement special assessment appeal for 26th Avenue North Street reconstruction project. Item 16 is the bid for gray black grass A aggregate. 17 is the construction of 42nd Avenue Street reconstruction project, and that's accepting the base low bid for that to proceed. Item 18 is the bid for ready mix concrete. That also is a low bid. 19 is the bid for drain line utility, again accepting the low bid. 20 is the bid for asbestos abatement, accepting the low bid for that work. Item 21 is the bid for Anderson School Crosswalk Improvement Project, accepting the low bid for that work to proceed. Item 22 is the bid for Seward Bicycle Boulevard Project, accepting low bid for that work. Item 23 is accepting low bid for 4th Street Southeast Reconstruction Project. And finally, 2017, we are designating with our passage and agreement today of the International Compost Awareness Week. That'll be from May 7th, 13th. And we had a very good discussion and update about the work that we've been doing in that program. With that, Madam President, I move all items, noting that item 1 has been amended as I described.
Councilmember Reich has moved the Transportation Public Works report with item 1, the change that's in front of you. Any discussion on any of those items? Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it's really interesting that no one made a kind of speech or comment about item number 13, which is a monumental issue. This is Target Corporation donating $2 million to the city of Minneapolis to revitalize PV Plaza. This is a perfect example of a private-public partnership where a local corporation has stepped up to invest in the reconstruction and infrastructure of a public space. It should not go unrecognized that the Downtown Council, Green Minneapolis, their team, and the private sector have worked endlessly to get a contribution like this, which in the end, right now, amounts to 33% of the total project budget, along with the $2 million we have currently from the state of Minnesota. So I didn't want to allow this moment to go forward. I hadn't seen very much publicity about it. Certainly, there was no big attention or PR effort on Target's part, but a $2 million contribution to public infrastructure should not go unnoticed and unthanked.
Any further discussion on the Transportation Public Works report? Councilmember Reich.
Well, in the spirit of recognition, I think Councilmember Goodman should be recognized for the fact that she's never left the purpose and importance of the PV Plaza space. The project has had its challenges, but never ever leaving the notion that we should not take second best for such a central feature of our downtown environment and for that community, which is a very residential community when you get south of Nicollet. We would not be having such generosity come forward if someone didn't hold forth a vision and the importance of that space. So I think that needs to be recognized as well.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
That report is adopted. Next, we have the Ways and Means report. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Ways and Means brings forward 10 items for consideration this morning. The first 2 items are legal settlements. Item number 3 is the bid for exterior light replacement project, Phase 1 at the Convention Center. Items 4 and 5 are accepting a grant from the Kresge Foundation for the Creative City Making Minneapolis program, as well as gift acceptance for the March 2017 donations. We also have item number 6, which is the rollover of 2016 funds to the 2017 general appropriations of the budget. Item number 7 is the consolidated office building request for proposals. This is authorizing an issuance of an RFP for architectural and engineering services. We also have a contract amendment with SecuroNet for additional scope of work services, as well as a contract amendment with Gartner for Enterprise Governance Program for Information Technology Systems. And the final item is the agreement with the 2018 Super Bowl 52 Host Committee for additional services provided by the city. I'd like to move all 10 items for approval.
Councilmember Quincy has moved the Ways and Means report. Any discussion on any of those items? Councilmember Gordon?
I just had a question on item 6 about the rollover funds.
Councilmember Gordon has a question about number 6, Councilmember Quincy. So why don't you ask Councilmember Quincy?
So it was a little bit unclear from the report then. Is this the final and complete action of all the rollover funds, or was this just looking at making sure that some departments had some of their rollover funds remaining so that they could finish up projects from 2016? And will we be considering additional rollover funds in the future?
This is the anticipated general appropriation rollover, and these are existing criteria from the 2016 budget from departments who wanted to continue a number of different projects. They were in process, so this is that appropriation. It still does provide for opportunities for other departments to bring forward additional items that could be made available. If you're talking about the one I think you're talking about, we can still work on that item. But it's this is the full complete list and should close out all department available funds from the 16 budget.
And so any other remaining will roll over into the general fund?
There are, it does have specific places where the balance goes. It goes to the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the Ways and Means report? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
Thank you. So I am going to be chairing until Council President Johnson can return. Next, we have zoning and planning report with its chair, Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 4 items from zoning and planning this cycle. Item number 1 is granting an appeal for a yard variance for an attached garage, and that includes the new findings that staff was directed to prepare from the City Attorney's Office, which is in your packet. Item number 2 is approving a rezoning for Wellington Management at 212 James Avenue North and Irving Avenue North to add a transitional parking overlay district and to add that to both addresses and to rezone to R5. Item number 3 is a rezoning at 3241 Cedar Avenue from R2 to R3 to legally establish having 3 residential uses in an existing building. And item number 4 is passage of an ordinance amending our zoning code related to regulations for fraternities and sororities. I will move items 1 through 4.
All right, Council Member Bender has moved all 4 items. I am not seeing any requested discussion on any. So, we do have one. Councilmember Goodman, which item?
I'm just wondering if there's a finding as a fact on item number 1 incorporated into the record.
So I will, I believe so. I'm going to turn to Councilmember Bender to see if she'd like to address that, or the city attorney.
Yes, I did state that. The motion included the findings of fact that we directed staff to prepare. And it's in your packets and in email.
All right, so we're ready to go. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just want to comment briefly on the zoning change related to the sororities.
Why don't you go ahead? Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the community, the Neighborhood Association, Wendy Bourne, as well as the participation by a combination of the neighborhood plus the sororities themselves and fraternities. I think we've got a really nice resolution here that allows expansion where it's necessary, while simultaneously accounting for the concerns of residents. So.
All right, thank you. I'm not seeing any further comment or discussion, so the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Vice President Glidden.
Aye.
There are 11 ayes.
All right. Next, we turn to notice of ordinance introductions, and that we have 2. The first is regarding Wellington Condominium Housing Improvement Area Ordinance, and Goodman gives the notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 16, Chapter 421 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances relating to planning and development housing improvement areas, adding a new Article 2 entitled Wellington Condominium Housing Improvement Area to establish the area and impose fees to pay for housing improvements within the area. Item number 2, notice of introduction regarding regulation of telecom antennas ordinance. Council President Johnson gives notice of intent to introduce at the next regular meeting of the City Council the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 20, Chapter 535 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances relating to zoning code regulations of general applicability, amending provisions related to telecom antennas in the right-of-way and general housekeeping of Article 8, communications towers, antennas, and base units. And I will let Council President get turned to the introduction and referral calendar, and I will return the meeting to her.
Thank you. Councilmember Glidden, did you take a vote then on the notice? Oh, those are notices.
There are notices.
Notices are
Yep.
given, okay. On the introduction and referral calendar, the first is a pursuant to notice, Councilmember Bender introduces the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to noise for first referral to the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee, amending permit requirements for sound amplifying equipment. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Next, we have pursuant to notice, Councilmember Gordon introduces and Palmisano introduces the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to licenses and business regulations, adding and amending provisions related to places of adult entertainment. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. And then pursuant to notice, Councilmember Gordon and Palmisano introduced the subject matter of an ordinance amending the code relating to the zoning code for first reading and referral to the Zoning and Planning Committee, amending provisions and definitions related to sexually oriented uses and adult entertainment. Any discussion on that introduction? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Under resolutions, we have the 2017 National Gun Violence Awareness Day Honorary Resolution. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. We also have in 2017 Public Service Recognition Week Honorary Resolution, passage of a resolution declaring the week of May 7th through 13th as Public Service Recognition Week. Any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Next, we have announcements. Are there any announcements? No announcements. Next item then is adjournment, and it is an adjournment motion to the Minneapolis Community Development Agency Board of Commissioners.
Good morning. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Minneapolis Community Development Agency Board of Commissioners. There are 12 commissioners present. There are 4 items on our agenda for approval this morning, including the adoption of the agenda, acceptance of the meetings of the regular minutes, as well as the report we took up in the Community Development Committee with regard to Resource Inc.'s refunding of the bonds. What is the commission's pleasure, Commissioner Fry?
Madam Chair, the commission's pleasure is to move all items.
All items have been moved by Commissioner Fry. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Quincy.
Aye.
Warsami.
Aye.
Barbara Johnson.
Aye.
Fry.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Kano.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Yang.
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 12 ayes.
Those items are approved. Seeing no further business before us, we are adjourned.